Guitar Friends, episode 18. Hey, Desi, nice guitar.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that?
I'm borrowing it from a friend.
You know any songs?
I do.
Let's
Should
hear
I play
one.
you something?
Let's hear one.
Say that was better than it has ever been played in a Guitar Center.
Yeah. Oh. I mean, that was so good we just lost any chance of monetization on the episode, which is always the problem when Desi's in the videos. The Human Jukebox Machine, the man who wrote he wrote the book on the fretboard. I think that's
Fretboard Theory.
Yes.
Guitar Theory for Dummies.
Yes.
Guitar Rhythm and Technique for Dummies.
There you go.
Guitar Picking Mechanics. Shall I go on?
With a very popular podcast, by the way.
The Guitar Music Theory Podcast.
And now that you're on this one, I'm sure it's going to blow up even more. Desi Cern is here.
Yeah.
And the man who told us all that the British were coming.
That's right.
Matt Revere is on the...
Hello, everyone.
He's here. What's up, dudes?
Hey.
Nothing. Hey.
We're here.
You know what this feels like to me a little bit? I started this podcast...
friends who play guitar?
Like friends who play guitar, like guitar friends. But I started this... you know why I really started this? I don't think I've talked about this. You know why I really started this Guitar Friends podcast? Because I was on TikTok one night, and I got onto like AI content creator TikTok. And so it was all these tools that you could use for, making content. And so it was talking about Canva and AI features in Canva and all this stuff. And then I saw this thing. Someone had a new thing that said you can auto edit a video podcast, and that the AI is really good at pairing a microphone with a camera angle, and just when I talk, it goes to me. When you talk, it goes to you. When you talk, it goes to... And it was like, you don't have to edit these things anymore. And then here was the problem. I only use Final Cut, and it was all on the Adobe product. And I thought I'll learn to use the other thing. And so I jumped out, started this podcast, grabbed Suze, pulled him in, and I said, and he sat right here. People can go back and watch episode 1. And I said, "Welcome to Guitar Friends Podcast." And he just looked at me like, what are you talking about? And that was my plan. And then I never learned how to use the Adobe thing. And so now we just edit it the long way. But now that Suze works here, he edits it the long way.
I heard he got Employee of the Month.
He did get Employee
twice.
of the Month. He did twice. I only gave him one award. Sue's actually in the other room editing a podcast right now. He's really fast at it. He's really fast. And Suze, come wave. Huh? Come wave.
Hey. We got all Guitar Friends now.
Yeah.
Guitar Friends.
So it feels like, it has felt like, originally I was like, I'm going to have all my friends on here. And then it's kind of just turned into, it feels like, John and Nate are here all the time. And we've been doing so many episodes just blabbing about stuff. So this feels like my other posse. You know what I mean?
The Spring Hill Posse?
It feels like my more classic rock crowd. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
It's interesting. You know what I mean? Like yeah, the songs change. Yeah, usually like when they're around, it's a lot of talk of like, remember that Boxcar Racer riff? And then when you guys are around, it's like, remember the Neil Schon? Is that how you play? The Neil Schon? No, I play it like this. No, I play.
Yeah, I'll admit that every time Desi plays something, I watch his hands and go, "Oh, that's how
you do it." That is.
I steal so much from just like gazing at your left hand.
Yeah. Well, dude, you are like a jukebox. Case in point, I've never seen anyone do this. You sat down with a 12 string. If you told me someone does this, I'd say I don't believe it. It's impossible. You sat down with a 12 string and you looked and you said to me, I can't think of any 12-string songs. You didn't mean you can't remember how to play the songs. You meant I can't think of what song is on a 12-string. And when I just told you the name of a band, you immediately started playing stuff that they play on a 12-string. You knew how to play the song. You just forgot which song it was. That's why I call you the human jukebox, or like because all of a sudden I was like Don Felder, the Eagles, and you were like, oh yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Well, a jukebox is the same way in that it knows every song, but you have to tell it which one to play.
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
That's me. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, go ahead. What was the...
we went through a whole bunch of stuff. Like we were like, oh, Pink Floyd. I have a 12-string, so I didn't think of it that way. Like, oh yeah, I've been playing that song for years, but that's 12-string.
But you don't have a double neck.
Is Wonderwall 12-string?
No. Maybe they did it live on a 12. You know what I mean? But I don't think so. I think it's just an acoustic.
Well,
the intro part.
Yeah. I had Matt play on the 6-string here. We did some just so I could do the, and then I came on the 12-string to do the free fall. Yeah, we did that part.
Oh, trust me, I'm gonna put in right here the clip of you guys playing the guitar together.
Oh, perfect.
I never had to play guitar against my will
for that.
That was it.
You know, however it goes. Am I right there? It's played with a capo, people.
I hear you.
That's amazing.
I know.
You can come up here. Give me some drive.
Here we go.
I'm going to stop right there.
Licks in that,
just to disappoint all the people that wanted to hear the Joe Walsh solo.
Yeah.
Joe Walsh is listening. He's like, oh, you jerks.
Come on. We were so close. If you said you had a 12-string electric, to me, I can't get excited about a 12-string electric, but you throw 2 necks on a guitar, make one 12-string. Now I'll play it all day long. You know what I mean? Why is that?
I had a 12-string acoustic.
Yeah.
A neighbor was just getting rid of it. Said, hey man, I'm going to get rid of this.
Sure. It's an acoustic.
It was an acoustic, and I thought, that'd be so cool. So I got it, fixed it up, put some new strings on it, came home, played it all day. This was years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is so cool, man. I can play all these 12-string songs that I used to just play on acoustic guitar. Hung it up on the wall. Then a few years later, I realized I had never used it. I had never touched it since that first day. And so I ended up selling it.
You know, a 12-string acoustic is a thing, though. And it's a thing Stevie has that live. Did he do it live? Didn't he?
Of course.
Yes. He sits down and does all of it. He does all his songs on an acoustic 12-string. And it sounds incredible.
Give me something a little cleaner here.
You know what? Go ahead.
So is Stevie's thought process, if he makes the string gauge up and up and up, at some point you just have to go to
You have
two
to double.
strings?
Right. The old story is they wouldn't let him go to 13s, even though he was demanding it. And they said, no.
Have you seen that old MTV Unplugged performance of Stevie Ray Vaughan on a 12 string? It is awesome.
It is insane. And I'll just say the difference between how he played it and you played it is Stevie somehow is still really bending some of those strings, which is...
He did a lot of... I learned those parts.
You learned it, and it's...
a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, I noticed, like, on the 6th, you'd go...
Everyone's like,
but you have to do the hammer on. It's a lot more.
I don't know if I can do it, but then he starts doing the... Yeah. Stevie does it so much better. Google Stevie Ray Vaughan,
Yeah.
MTV Unplugged.
Yeah, it's great.
And watch his Pride and Joy. He does Testify. And he does Rude Mood. You got to see all three of those. And you realize, like, he is as good as he is known to be.
Yeah. And it's a total different vibe than anything else. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
He was in really good voice, too. I like the way his voice sounds on Pride and Joy. Because he
on
often
that
got really gritty, just kind of, his voice didn't hold up sometimes, but he's in really good voice in that.
Rough life. He was going all the way.
I was nuts about Stevie Ray Vaughan when I was in middle school.
Yeah, man.
Like crazy about him.
Yeah.
I grew up in Texas,
Yeah. Did you?
I did.
Did I know that?
I guess not.
Is that a lot of motorcycles in Texas?
Yes, there are. But
it's a big state.
It's a very big state.
It's a big
Texas has
state.
everything. If you want to ride across Texas on a motorcycle, you'll be shocked at how big of a state it actually is. But that has nothing to do with guitars.
I've driven across Texas.
Yeah?
It took a long time. A long time.
Yeah, and you keep looking at the map going, am I still in Texas? It's amazing.
I know. It's basically Orlando. You get through some of the South. You hit Louisiana, New Orleans. You have some gumbo and a po' boy. And then you're pretty much in Texas until Los Angeles. That's pretty much it.
Basically, yeah.
Right?
It's crazy.
And, because, I mean, who really, where's Phoenix? You know what I mean? It's just like, what do we just, you know what I mean? It's just like a really hot LA with no water around. Like cheaper houses. That's all anyone's out there for. Anyway, what are you guys playing these days, man? You came over and went. You guys just got here, and we were looking at the new Kemper Player, and but you're kind of an axe guy, But obviously, a lot of the people who are listening might know that you've, you made the Slash and the EVH pack. So obviously, kind of a Kemper man at heart. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that fair to...
If I'm staring at an Axe FX and a Kemper, and you're like, okay, go on stage and play one of these two, I'm definitely going to pick the Kemper. I'm much more comfortable on it, and I mean, I personally just enjoy it more. I've never had a situation where I'm playing the Kemper and I'm thinking I'm kind of tired of hearing the way this unit sounds, and I have experienced that with other digital solutions. But in my day job, I do use the Axe FX. Right. So I'm still pretty familiar with that unit.
Sounds great. We've been on the Axe FX lately. Suze has been dialing in a bunch of stuff. I am very impressed. We've been tone matching stuff, but there's a lot in there, Obviously, there's a lot in there. It's made by geeks, Yeah. It's the Android phone of solution. You know what I mean? Right? It's not the iPhone. You can go deep into the editing. You're changing power tubes, and it's like, what am I doing here? Yeah.
I remember I was talking to Keith Urban's tech one time, and he was telling us all about how powerful the Axe FX unit was and all these different options. And he's saying you can go in and change the reverb EQ on one side. And I looked at him and I said, I got to tell you, that sounds like the seventh layer of hell to me.
You know what I like about Matt? I got to say this. Matt is
so dry.
a phenomenal guitar player.
Yes,
and just a great musician.
Yes.
But we have done a lot of work for you in the past with these demos, and you'll start talking about these amps and getting into the specs, and my eyes just start to gloss over, and I look at Matt and I realize his eyes are glossing over too, and we're both thinking the same thing.
Who cares?
What riff do you want here?
Well, here's the thing, okay?
Yeah.
If you are a tone junkie, I'm a guy that has experimented with tone at a party in college once.
I see.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's the difference between me and you.
Yeah. But you know what you like.
Okay, so
You have
here's
pretty strong opinions about what you like. You're a
I
big
do.
John Mayer fan. Huge.
no, he's great, John. If you're listening, thank you for carrying the torch.
John
of
will
guitar.
be here next week.
Hey, I'm a fan.
Me too.
Here's the thing with me and tone, okay? Because I do make the artist packs, and I really enjoy that. For me,
Right.
if I'm making a tone, it has to get to the point where I play it and I smile and I'm all by myself and I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. That's it. And I don't know how it gets to that point, but I know when it is to that point.
Right. Yeah. You also you're a professional. So you've got a thing that you could play all day long, but that's not you're not in an EVH cover band.
No.
So
that'd be fun.
Yeah,
That'd be fun.
so you got to serve the song. So you've got, you play different sounds based on what the music calls for.
For better or for worse, it is no longer an exciting hobby, and I definitely had that phase for years of my life. Now
Sure.
it is very much a corporate professional, reach the end goal sort of activity for me.
Yeah.
I've got kids, I've got hobbies and other things that I want to do. Because this is
motorcycle.
no longer. I've got a few motorcycles. Let me know if you want to have a motorcycle podcast. I'd love to be a guest on that one.
You got a new home gym?
Yeah, I'm into all that stuff. But
You both have new baby girls.
Oh, we do.
Yes, we do.
We do both have new baby
How is your
girls.
baby girl?
We didn't mention that.
Yeah.
Mine is great. We went to a Lego.
Brickfest?
Yeah.
How
Did you
was
go?
it? No, I didn't. I looked at it. It looked fun though.
It was cool, but on the way there, she pooped. It went all the way up her back.
Yeah.
Of course, I said to my wife, when I change the diaper, it doesn't shoot up the back. What are you doing here? What, are you putting it on weird?
And she's
like, I'm not putting it on
loved
weird.
that, right? Yeah, women love that.
So she's like, I have a change of clothes. Of course, you didn't bring a change of clothes. I'm like, okay, good point. So she changed her clothes. We went inside. One of my sons is waiting to build a Lego car that's like going to race down.
Oh yeah.
She does it again. All of her back shoots all over the back of and she just got into this phase where all of a sudden she like upped the amount of formula she'll drink. And so I guess now I don't know. Her little body doesn't know what to do with all this formula.
Yeah.
So it's like a cannon.
I can appreciate that this is a podcast about many different diverse topics.
Yeah, no.
Welcome to
We're not.
Baby Friends podcast.
So how's your
She's doing
daughter?
really well. She is just an angel from sun up to sundown, but from sundown to sun up, it's just she makes all kinds of horrible noises.
How old is she now?
She's a little over 6 months.
Okay.
The beginning of the night was pterodactyl noises. Like,
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, she does not sound happy. She sounds mad in there, We go in and give her a pacifier, pat on the back, whatever. And then I wake up this morning and she's making all these like weird, high-pitched R2-D2 sounds.
They
And I'm
definitely
like, what is that
discover
noise?
sounds.
Yeah.
They like discover a new thing and then they go with it for a while.
Yeah.
Strange. Yeah.
And she laughs like this. She goes, which is great.
Yeah.
Really love that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to say I have two baby girls too.
Yeah.
Yours 11 months and 20 months. I'm sorry, 11 years
Yeah, yours
and
are a little
20
older.
years.
Yours are more expensive.
And they no longer
That's right.
they no longer poop up their backs.
Yeah.
At least I don't see it.
Now that they're telling you, yeah.
Yeah, if they do, it's their problem.
Right. It's they definitely mine has discovered and then just all the time. So and sometimes she'll just do it for an hour, just sitting there and slobber everywhere. It's like it looks like you dumped water all over them, and then they're just happy as a clam, It's fun to watch the kids interact, though. You know what I mean? The babies and the older ones, and they try to make them laugh.
I just think
It's really sweet.
it's funny that at some point we can't entertain ourselves like that. It's too bad.
It's
like
true.
what if,
I know.
What if we could just do that for an hour?
Yeah.
And make a slobbery mess and just be happy about it.
Oh, that
You
would
say,
be
hey, Desi,
so
what'd you do on
nice.
your day off?
I
You know what? You ever done this? enthralling.
Yeah, for an hour, for 24 hours. I ask my wife all the time, I'm like, how is she not so bored? She just like sits around here. Someone holds her. They walk around with her a bit. They look at her. They go, ah, hey.
Well, her threshold for excitement is
Right.
like this, it's not very much.
She doesn't know about tone.
Exactly. She doesn't know how awesome tone is and how long you can get sucked into it.
What's a double neck? What's a neck? What's a...
Oh, yeah.
What's
I
double?
like how you're segueing back.
Yeah,
It's
you
great.
see? What
Into
is
guitar
any of
here.
it? What is any
Yeah.
of it, you know? What's an EL34?
I don't know.
What
it's
is an
no idea.
It's the
EL34,
shape.
Matt?
Yeah, it's a shape.
I don't know.
It's
It
the
looks like a
sh-
light bulb to me.
Yeah, it's a light bulb. It's the shape
That's
of
a
a bottle.
chord, I think, or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
The
a chord.
EL34
The
chord?
EL34 chord. What do you got?
Here comes something.
EL. Yeah, what's an EL34
Isn't that
chord?
what this is? Hendrix used that in Purple Haze,
Yeah,
didn't he?
yeah, that's the EL34 chord. That's right.
What's
That's
funny
right.
is that he played the E7 sharp 9 chord probably through a Marshall with EL34 tubes
Absolutely, yeah.
for that song.
Yeah. Well, the
So
first,
I wasn't that far off.
the first, yeah. I mean, it could have been a JTM 45. Maybe it was
Matt's eyes are
KT66.
glossing over.
Yeah.
Here we go.
You know, it's funny. You're 100% right. Because I think because Jimmy passed, there's so many amps that are like, this is Jimmy's amp. There's like the JTM 45 100. Then there's like the versions of that. Then the JTM 50. Then there's the 100-watt Plexi. Because, he played different stuff, Especially in those days when you would travel to Europe. You didn't bring anything. You plugged into... And they had Marshalls over there. Yeah. So when he's when he's doing the later stuff, Band of Gypsies, it's like... It's full Plexi by that point. The fuzz face is different, and it's all just whatever's around. You know what I mean? But I wonder. I always think about what people would use today.
Well, but back at that time, what was around was great stuff.
Sure.
Like when I started playing guitar in the 80s, am I the only one here that started playing guitar in the 80s?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
I was born in the
Am I the
80s.
only one here with a 20-year-old daughter?
Also, yes.
So like you go to the music store and they didn't have they were still on the market, but the music store had all of these really crappy solid state amps like Crate and stuff like that, and Gorilla amps. Okay. All the old people listening that, they remember.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's what I played for years.
Yeah.
And
That's all there was.
because that's what was available in the music stores and stuff. And, at some point I'm like, why doesn't this sound like these records that I'm, playing along with?
I got.
They didn't have bad amps back then. You're
Right.
going to get a Marshall or a Fender or something with real tubes and everything. You turned it up to 10.
That was what there was.
You couldn't go wrong.
Yeah.
The guitars were made great back then,
Okay, question for you guys. As two professional guitar players, I'm going to say, you both make a living playing the guitar, okay? I make a living sometimes with a guitar in my hands, but that's different.
You're a professional guitar player.
I'm kind of in
Count it.
between. He's the professional touring player.
But listen, you play, and you teach, and
Right.
you definitely make a living with a guitar in your hand. And in other times in your life, you've made all your money from playing, and you're a teacher, an author, and all that stuff now.
Yeah.
Okay, but your opinion. Does the availability and the amount of gear that exists, does it make for worse players overall? And I will not be offended if you point out that I have 40 guitars in here and can't hold a candle to you two. But does the availability and the gear and the obsession and the culture, has it just resulted in just a much lower standard of what it means to be a good player?
I don't think that there's a definitive correlation between those two things. Because I think that there's
And we're in Nashville, right?
Right.
So there's tons of great players. I mean,
everyone's good at guitar in
waiter
Nashville.
is awesome, and
it's very humbling.
yes, right,
It's very humbling.
Right, it is. It is.
Okay, I think you could say that there are players that have a ton of gear who are excellent, and players that have a ton of gear that are not, and vice versa. Players that only have a little bit and they're great, and players that
It's like there's something to be said about, like, you ever hear that saying, beware of a man who owns one gun. He probably knows how to use it.
Yeah,
It means like he's committed to that one. it's not like does gear make us suck? Does too much gear make us suck? Maybe that's the question. What do you think, Desi?
I would say, if I can
go ahead,
interrupt
go ahead.
about the gun thing, I think you should be more worried about the guy that chooses to buy one bullet.
There's, well, okay.
That's the guy I got to look out for.
Hey, too many is a red flag. But honestly, one seems like a little bit of a red flag. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think it's how much money do you have?
I got to be careful because I keep saying this word. I'll probably get demonetized. But guitars and firearms like that are a bit of a culture. You always end up buying more than one. You get into it. They're cool. It sucks you in. You know what I mean? I never met anyone who's like, yeah, I've been playing guitar for 50 years and I played on the road with this person. I played with this person. I own one guitar. I mean,
right.
You'll never find that person, right?
Well, yeah.
Because there's always some variety. Desi, what do you think? You teach a lot of students of varying levels. You know of many guitar players, the rest of us. You know, you see the entry level. Are people too consumed with gear? Do they do that? Is that causing people to not take it seriously or just sit down and practice?
I don't know. I can say this, like, there's never been a better time to play guitar.
Sure.
Just because there's, great gear that's available that's, relatively affordable, and you can actually get some great tones and play at a bedroom level or with headphones. Like, the technology's made it a lot easier because we really didn't have that. But back in my day, back in the 80s, before you guys were born, apparently, we
didn't have
there was
Britney Spears.
There's a lot of junk stuff. You know what I mean?
We had Neil Schoen.
Yeah,
He was
we
my
didn't
Britney
have
Spears.
Kemper. We didn't have Kemper and Line 6, and a lot of my students are beginner and intermediate level. That's why they're taking lessons.
Yeah.
And I usually recommend they get like a Boss Katana or the Yamaha THR or these sort of things, because not only do those things sound better and the effects are better than what I had to deal with when I was kind of getting started, but the fact that you can get a decent tone and play at a comfortable bedroom level is such a game changer.
It is.
Because, I would play these awful solid state amps, and then I started realizing, like, oh, Stevie Ray Vaughan uses tube amps, because at first you just look at the guitar that your heroes are playing. I need a Strat. I need a Les Paul.
Yeah.
And then I bought a Strat and a Les Paul, and I brought it home and plugged it into my Crate amplifier. What do you think that sounded like with that solid state distortion, trying to play, something like, Stevie Ray Vaughan or Lynyrd Skynyrd,
Yeah.
But then I realized, they're using tube amps, They're using these 50 watt,
Yeah, you need a
Fender
tube amp.
amps in a tube screamer,
Yeah.
Well, then imagine, like, taking that amp, setting it up properly at its breaking point, and then hitting the tube screamer, and putting it in front of it. And it's just like, you're going to blow the windows out in your house,
Yeah, totally.
And so
then you see someone play a Les Paul, and you're like, I need a Les Paul. My Strat doesn't sound like that. My amp doesn't sound like that, right?
Yeah.
And then you buy 5 guitars and you can't play
But
a
now
song.
you get a Boss Katana 50.
It's true.
And you can play it at a comfortable, level in your home. And look, I'm not saying it's exactly the same as, playing through a 100 watt Marshall, but it's so much better.
It'll get you closer, faster, cheaper.
And
to that tone.
And you can control the volume. And so I think it's so much easier to learn today. I mean, we might get a little off topic here. This is not an answer to your question, but
it is, yeah.
Everything that's available, YouTube and, Ultimate Guitar and guitarmusictheory.com. Hello. So many resources.
Link in description.
There's so many resources. Like, I think what's happened is that it's just opened the door so that more and more people can play.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, in terms of gear acquisition syndrome, I used to watch all the demo videos and just geek out so hard on amps and pedals, and I was into it. I was constantly selling this pedal to buy this one, And then I got the Kemper, and that was the absolute end of all of that. Really? It was like an entire interest in my life was gone, because now I had this device that could do all of that, and then there was no reason for me, at least, to watch it.
What'd you do? Did you just practice the guitar?
Yeah, it was weird, man.
Wild.
Crazy. Crazy. But it honestly took the fun out of buying gear. Because I'm like, well, I I could go through the trouble of selling this tube screamer and going ahead and buying this tube screamer, whatever. Or I could just click green screen and dial it how I want it to sound.
You know what's interesting about what you're saying? It reminds me. I mean, I think we all know like this is true, but like it took away. Like all you were left with was like, I guess I just got to play the guitar when I want to play the guitar. I don't need to look at amps. I don't need to. I used to sell apparel. I used to work at a company that sold apparel, and I was at this company during a time when women's fashion went. It adopted what they now call athleisure. It's athletic gear being used for leisure wear, and so you see this in you can see it in women's leggings. You will see women wear basically what is kind of like performance materials and construction that's really made for movement and everything, or shoes that a lot of fashion switched to runners and jogging shoes and all this stuff, and that just became walk around fashion. But the real motivator behind it, and everyone knew it, because all of apparel was down, all of textiles were down, except for athleisure was blowing up, Under Armour and stuff, and all these companies. And I don't even know what brands. Women know all the brands. They all went this way. And what they figured out was that in the marketing, they were basically selling you a more healthy, active lifestyle without actually having to have one. So what they said people were getting out of it was this athleisure craze allowed people to eat overnight oats or eat some yogurt and then put on this outfit and then walk for 10 minutes. And they really got the dopamine hit of, I have an active lifestyle now. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing that. And the clothes sort of just added to that. And it reminded me a little bit like, yeah, I mean, maybe fitness has always had that. Like it's easier to go buy another $30 thing where you do this and it gets rid of like the fat behind your arms. It's easier to hit.
No, it doesn't.
Right. But it's easier to hit like buy now and get the feeling of I've now done something like for my health or my wellness than to actually just do the very boring thing, which is like, I still need to be going to the gym on day 38. You know what I mean? Like that's there's not a ton, eventually that dopamine hit wears off. And so you kind of look, and it's probably like that with any hobby. I love looking at reverb.com. I don't even like Facebook. I don't even like Instagram anymore. I pretty much just look at hilarious stuff on TikTok and then I scroll reverb.com I wish people would comment on the gear. Like I wish there were little comments where I could like read about comments. I don't know. Somehow if they could work in more social features. I just scroll and I add stuff to my watch list and I go, man, if this guy really gets in a pinch and that goes down 40%, I might buy it. And every now and then it happens, and you get notified.
It looks like it happens quite often.
It happens way too much. And I'll tell you, when I'm intentional about giving up reverb, I stop buying things. I've gone on a month or two long thing of buying nothing. And then all of a sudden I start going on reverb again. So it's maybe it's not unique to guitar that these sort of peripheral activities, the sort of related pastimes that aren't the actual thing you're into, but are sort of related to it, make you feel like it. It's like arguing about pickups on the internet. Like who would want to do that? Mm-hmm. All of us, really. I mean, right? It's like all of us.
I gotta tell you, that sounds like the seventh layer of hell.
You know what? I don't know. What puts people on the internet talking about pickups or pedals rather than just playing the guitar? They love music. Mm-hmm. They love guitar. They love pedals. There's something about like looking at pedal boards. It's like, this is fun too. Oh, look at that. Wow.
Yeah. I'm so bad about just going to someone that I trust. Like I may call you and be like, hey man, what kind of pickup should I put in this guitar?
Yeah.
And you tell me, I'm like, all right, sweet.
Sounds good.
Well, if he thinks it's good, then it's got to be good. And then I'll just go with that and be as happy as a clam.
Sure.
That's the logical fallacy of appealing to authority.
It is. Mm-hmm. What if I choose
it also
bad
saves
pickups?
me a lot of forum reading time.
That's true.
That's pretty nice.
That is true.
I have to admit that I have been kind of like irritated and annoyed and confused by people who seem to obsess and know more about gear than they actually do about guitar playing. You know,
that is maybe the defining characteristic of internet guitar forums.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, there were times in the past where I think I received some unsolicited criticism from someone like at a gig who, you know, I don't know, didn't like the particular gear I was using, or, you know, was trying to suggest that I use something else and wanted to talk about amps and cabinets. And,
right. Well, they weren't going to pick your playing apart
or something like that. And it's like, actually, I have two things I'll say about this. I did realize that I needed to learn more about gear, and I did, you know, but like, you know, I realized like I got a gig, the tone isn't bad, you know, I know my parts, I'm playing them well.
What kind of gig was this?
It's just a cover band gig.
Like a cover band. Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah. And you're doing a wide variety of music.
Yeah.
Did this person pay to get into the venue where you were playing? Or not
yeah, they
even?
probably paid a cover
Excellent
charge.
question.
But
Okay, they probably got a cover. Okay,
typically those people that had the strongest opinions about that didn't have a gig themselves.
Sure. Of
Right?
100%.
I'm like, hey, I'm playing regularly. It's like, you know, this is my setup, you know, and it's what I'm used to. And, you know, could it be better? Sure. But, you know, I certainly didn't slack on making sure my playing was in order, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's the chronically online guitar player, maybe, you know, that just can't, they wouldn't know what to talk to you about if it weren't about
But
gear.
you know what? Like, I get it. Like, we have, you know, we geek out on all sorts of things, and I certainly do that to some extent. I mean, earlier, before we rolled tape here, we were having a very in-depth theological discussion, and it was what I was so impressed is how you guys were familiar with the subject. You're talking about history and this sort of thing, and I realized, what a bunch of nerds here. I love these guys, you know?
That's exactly right.
So it's like we have these brains that need stimulation.
Yeah.
And so we have these interests, and, you know, I've gone down the gear rabbit holes and learned about, you know, pickup and different types of magnets and windings and all that stuff. And it is interesting. So it's like, I don't want to throw these people under the bus. I get it. I did learn that I actually needed to know more. So I got better at that. I swapped out some pickups on my guitars and ended up finding tones that I was even more satisfied with. Of course, when I started using the Kemper, that was such a game changer.
But you know what? You did something that was interesting, because it's that people on forums and stuff don't do. Or maybe they do it, but they talk about it a lot. I watched you take a really great guitar with what the forums would have said are really great pickups, like the best pickups, and you tried a bunch of different pickups, and you landed on pickups and said, these are the best for me and this gig, that the forums would not have said are better than what you took out. I'm talking about your 594, and you landed on 50, was it 59?
Currently there's Seymour Duncan 59 pickups.
And you tried pickups, you tried the 594 pickups. I think you tried 5708s, right? Which are like, or in my, and
I
then
tried some different,
did you try the 5910s or whatever?
No, I did like the JB and Jazz.
Yeah.
And one thing I didn't try in them is the APH1 or the APH2, the slash pickups, which probably would kill in it, because I put those in another guitar. Though.
But you put in then you know, less boutique, less cool, less.
Well, I have a PRS McCarty 594, which I bought in part because I love the pickups, and now I'm not even using those pickups. And then I have a PRS DGT, the David Grissom, again, which I bought in part because I love the pickups, and I have Seymour Duncans in that too. And so that's kind of like blasphemous to most. Like, why would you get a DGT and not use the DGT pickups, or a 594 and not use those 594 pickups? They're great pickups, and that's part of what sold me on the guitar. But as I was doing, a lot of my lessons are all focused on classic rock and popular stuff, and I realized, you know what, like, I think I need something that sounds more typical or more traditional. So I tried some different pickups in there, and it just worked much better for what I was doing, at least for now. Because you know what I mean? Like, at some point I may get sick of it. I'll put the originals back in and fall in love with them all over again.
I think if you were like a chronically online guitar player, like one of these guys that just really lives on the forums, you never would have put those 59s in there. They wouldn't have passed the sniff test, the cork sniff test.
So here's an issue with the forums. Often I'll be having a discussion about gear with other people that I'm touring with or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you kind of gotta stop and think, who's on the forums? Like who's behind the keyboard? And if someone is making their living, like a Desi out there, why is a Desi listening to the forums when he doesn't know if the person he's listening to actually knows what they're talking about
or has a gig?
Yeah. There's some truth to this, right? Who is that guy? What's he talking about? We don't know.
Another thing too is like there's a huge difference between just sitting in a room with a guitar and an amp and listening to that tone, or someone who's playing live in professional situations, or who's tracking in a studio.
Sure.
Like, one of the things that I didn't like about the Seymour Duncan 59 pickups when I first put them in the 594 is like, well, number one, the whole character of the guitar changed, and I didn't like that. But I thought it was too thin, and I'm like, I just lost that fullness of the original pickups. But I kept them in for a while and used it, and as I started listening back to recordings, I was like, oh, holy cow. That sounds perfect. Like they were perfectly EQ'd to fit in the mix.
Right.
And I realized that's what was frustrating me about the original pickups. They had this real, full sound with a wide frequency range. And it sounds really good if you're just playing unaccompanied.
Sure.
It's just, but it's like, that's not actually an ideal sound in a mix, in a live setting, or in a recording setting. So sometimes you have these guys that have strong opinions about pickups, but they're just playing in their basement or anything. Yeah. They're not tracking in a studio.
Yeah. And you just used your ears, tried different things. And what I was saying was like, if you were on the boards, on the forums, and you had been like, I don't like my 594 pickups, what should I get? No one ever would have suggested to you Duncan 59s because they're like too lowbrow. They would have been like, what you need is this. You need a bare knuckle, blah, 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 a very limited rare this, or you need this, or this guy who custom makes them, or they would have been like, I don't know, man, what's wrong with you? My 594 is the perfect guitar ever. And it's true. If you just play in your room, or if you just haven't been doing something a long time, or just don't have a lot of experience, it can be very difficult to appreciate that, like, what is better or worse? What sounds good in one context just may be very different in another context. And, you might describe the tone as, oh, it's too thin, but then sometimes that can just work,
A sound guy would say, no, it's perfect.
Yeah,
I don't want more frequencies in there.
I think we never appreciate that. Like, some people play in a 3-piece band. Some people play in a 9, 11, 13, 16-piece band. You know what I mean? Like, how many people are in your nighttime weekend gig that you're playing right now?
The
5?
Huey Lewis thing?
Yeah, the Huey Lewis band.
What is there, Matt?
The cover band.
7?
Oh, that's bigger than I thought.
Yeah, it's 7.
7.
You got horns?
One horn player,
Okay.
but then sometimes they'll add some horn players.
That's bigger than I thought. You could have a cover band, 4-piece. You easily have a 4-piece cover band that you're playing at. And then you could go to a church and they got a horn section and drums, and they got a guitar. They got a bunch of guitar players, and they got a choir and 5 vocalists out front.
They might have a double neck player.
They might have a double neck playing.
That's like 1.5 guitar players, right?
I know, really. Cue a video of me playing a double neck at church here. Maybe that's my new thing. I should have a lever. Anytime someone brings it up, it'll just be me playing a double neck somewhere at church. This will be my thing that I have. And no, but you're right. It could be anything. And at that point, it's like the board has 32 sends going into the board. How big sonically are you allowed to be?
Yeah.
And the answer is not very big at all. The answer is, if you're lucky, you got a tone that's kind of going to sit somewhere where it's still audible, and when the guy's not turning you up for a part,
And those frequencies that make it sound full and warm and thick when you're playing unaccompanied, all suddenly can be cause a lot of problems.
Too much. Yeah.
Now, it doesn't sound the same
Yeah.
in the mix. It's not cutting through. It's interfering with the frequencies of other instruments, and your sound guy is, trying to cut some EQ here and there. And that was the problem I had. Like at church, I remember listening to some of the live streams, and I was a little disappointed with the way the guitars were cutting. And then I put those 59s in. I played one Sunday at church, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
There it is. Yeah.
It came through crystal clear and just sounded lovely. Suddenly, the kind of thinness that I didn't like as I was playing it unaccompanied didn't matter because I'm with drums and bass and keys and other instruments, and it just fit in beautifully and like perfectly in the mix and sounded crystal clear. And I'm like, "That's it. That's what I'd been wanting."
Matt, you've been in a situation where the sound guy's definitely turning you up for your solo. It's the main part, and there's a lot of paying butts in seats that just want to hear that thing rip. Not always the case, right?
What do you mean?
Well, I'm just saying. But the opposite of that is like sometimes you're fighting to just have your little part in the mix, and the opposite is, you're in the big arena, and all of a sudden it's like it's time for the, it's time to wow them, and that fader's going up. It's like cue solo here, and it's like, come out. There's a spotlight, whatever. I don't know.
To that point, I think a huge advantage in dialing in those tones is having a front of house engineer that is really, really good, that you trust.
That's everything, right?
It's such a big deal.
It can't be understated.
I cannot tell you how many times we're in rehearsal and we're playing through something, and any one of us, bass player, myself, the other guitar players will go, "Hey, Tim, how's this sound out there?" And he'll tell you exactly, what you need to hear. Sometimes he'll say, "Yeah, it sounds great." Sometimes he'll say, "Yeah, you need a little bit more of this, dial this back, whatever." But we trust him because he's listening to the final result of what we're trying to do. Now, granted, his resume is unbelievable.
Right. It's going to be great if you do it.
Rush and Aerosmith and craziness, but he knows what he's talking about. That's for sure.
That's tough because I think most of the time you're in a situation where you don't have that level of faith in a sound guy.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go, "Hey, Tyler, how does it sound out there?" And then, it's like pans to Tyler. It's just crickets playing. Tyler's drinking coffee in another room. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No, but that is some people's reality, Or I've played, I've played bars and stuff where, you don't know the sound guy. You just show up and it's some guy and it's like, "What are you making, $30 and free beer?" like what do you know what I mean? It's like a terrible system. And, you're just like, man, I hope you're not inebriated.
That would be a good
thing
start.
You can hope for, right? It's like, I hope you're going to stay awake or something.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and that's just what it is, which there's really no solution for.
Yeah.
Really.
I always say that some of Tim's greatest strengths is that he's always awake and sober.
Hey, that's
really
half
good.
the job. That's half of every job. You know what I mean?
Half of every job.
You want to lose any job, be asleep and drunk, and you'll probably lose it. That's what all jobs have in common. Unless you're like night shift security guard for hire. Then you can probably sleep.
I got a question for you guys. Have you ever had that dude or chick who obsesses about their gear, wants to talk about, all of the specs of everything, and then you go hear them play and they don't sound good?
I feel offended at the question.
Don't sell yourself short. You're a great guitar player.
Cue clip of me playing doubles neck here.
So one more time, let's just...
No, hey, you sounded good. No, you played well, and that tone was great. And
it was good tone.
Yeah,
it was good tone.
Yes.
Very good tone. You do know tone.
Oh, absolutely.
HW knows tone.
Junkie.
That's
To answer your question, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got this person pictured in my mind, and I couldn't help but think, okay, whatever money you were spending on this gear, you should have spent it on online courses or a book. Because if you want to sound better, make the notes and the rhythm sound better going through whatever gear you're playing through. It matters so much more.
That sounds way less fun.
I know.
That sounds way less fun than telling someone they should buy a $400 pair of pickups online. That sounds way more fun.
Or you go down to like Broadway here in Nashville, and some guy's just doing the honky tonk thing, and he's playing a Squire Telly through a Boss Katana 50.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And he sounds amazing. He's killing it.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's just nailing it, and it sounds good. And it's
because he's
loud
just
and
an
turned
awesome
up.
player. Yeah.
And
to be fair, I've known people who were total gearheads, obsessed about everything, and I went and they sounded fantastic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were good players and they had things dialed in. But one thing guitar players have to be aware of is like on stage, you got an amp that's at your feet or something. And as you're standing in front of it and you got your pedal board and everything, and it sounds sweet and you like the way it feels and everything, and you think, man, I'm killing it. But if you're not thinking about, okay, well, that's what it sounds like pointing at your feet on stage.
Right.
How is that coming out in the house mix, Because I've had people who are like, man, this new amp, I put new tubes in it and I got this new pedal. It sounds awesome. Doesn't it sound awesome? And I'd be like, I got to be honest. I can hardly make out your playing. It's so muddy out here in the room,
And then what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point? At some level, gear is for the player. You got to love it. It's better if you love it. You won't play it if you don't love it. You don't want to play guitar you don't like that much.
Yeah, and there is something to be said for when you are really digging your own tone, your own sound, you're going to play better.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm not advocating for bad tone or bad gear.
Sometimes I'm just smiling, while I'm playing. And I'll watch back and I'll be like, I remember what I was thinking. I was thinking, oh, yeah, that sounds so good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just smiling. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's, it's just, maybe a little high in my own supply, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I'm into it,
Can we talk about something super duper specific that really makes me smile?
Please.
Is the doubler effect in the Kemper.
Oh, it's good.
I love it.
It's very good.
Like anytime I'm playing with another guitar player and he goes for solo, I'm like, bam, doubler.
Yeah.
Because it just spreads it out like crazy. It makes me so happy.
Yeah.
It's a great effect. And if you turn it up to crazy settings, it does like weird chorusy stuff.
Oh, yeah?
It's like weird modulation. Yeah, it's like kind of wacky, inadvertent, I'm sure. But yeah, that's not that old. They added that not that long ago, right?
It was good then. It's good now.
It was a newer thing.
Yeah, you turned me onto that. It's part of my performance I use now.
Yeah.
For some things.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. A good doubler effect.
It's perfect because like when you listen to rock recordings, like when do they not double? The power chord riffs or the rhythm guitar parts. They're always going to double that just to make them thicker and wider and stuff.
The moderate amount of recording I've done of sending people tracks and stuff, you always send more than you think people need. You always double stuff. You always, they're not going to leave everything in there, but, if you're remote or something, you don't know what they're asking for.
This is going to be the one takeaway from this podcast.
What's that?
People need to try the doubler effect.
People need to try the doubler effect.
Try the doubler effect.
It's
so good.
Everything that we've talked
So
to
good.
up
For
until
sure.
this point was for this reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this last thing I'll say, and we can go to lunch because I'm hungry. Before I might get I might use the doubler effect and then, apply it on the 12 string, which already has like the octave doubler, and then.
Is that legal in Tennessee?
I don't think that's legal. But one thing I did notice was this last weekend I was playing the double neck, and I looked around the stage, and I realized I had more strings than everyone else combined. There were 2 acoustic guitars with 6 strings. I don't know why there were 2 acoustics this week. And then the guy on bass had 4. And so I had
18.
I had them all beat. Yeah. They were at 16. I was at 18. Even had he went and got his 5-string bass, I would have still had him beat.
Yeah.
He'd need to pull out the big 6, string. The super 6.
That's why more churches need harp players.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's yeah.
To keep us guitar players humble.
Yeah. Yeah, look how many strings they got. But too many, a lot of opportunities to go out of tune,
Yeah, well, that's the joke about 12-string guitars is
Sure.
that they spend half the time tuning, the other
Yes.
half the time playing out of tune.
Yeah. I got lucky with this one. It stays in tune. I
does.
tuned
It's pretty
one
shocking.
time and I didn't have any issues there. Now, I'm not playing it the whole time. It's like every song a little bit here on this part or whatever. So maybe it's forgiving, but
I do want to warn you that changing strings on a 12-string is probably going to take 3 times longer than changing on a 6-string. I don't know how that math works out, but it does.
yeah. I'm thinking about putting a Floyd on the 12 side. So it takes even longer. So it'll take
And
me
using
a
a
whole
slide?
weekend. Yeah, so it'll take me a whole weekend to change
Locking
things.
Yeah.
nut.
I'm sure someone's done it, you know?
Why'd you put a B bender on
Yeah,
this while you're
yeah,
at it?
right.
What else? Is there something else we could put in there?
I'm sure. All right, we can call that a wrap. Dudes, thanks for coming by. And I got another purple plexi. We didn't even play that.
Really?
Look, there's two. There's two of them.
You're
It's like
into
the
the whole
doubler effect.
double
It's like the
there.
double.
Yeah.
I'm doubling everything. One, the old one, or the original, is a 68, and that new one is a 64 that someone recovered, and then they paired it with a smaller Marshall cab. You know, that cab is smaller. Oh, yeah. It's a 412, but they're just really crammed in there. They're almost touching. Oh. And it's got scumbacks, and it sounds great. Desi, you want to play us out?
Give me like an overdriven song, and we'll give people the second half of that Hotel California, so they can
An
hear the
overdriven
Joe
tone
Walsh.
here? Like-
Yeah.